Hello, everyone, and good afternoon if you are sitting here in Singapore, just like me. My name is Milbert Susmania, and I work as a principal scientist under the research and development team for Johnson& and Johnson. And today, I just want to take you through how we were able to use data science to develop a new probiotic product for my team here in Asia Pacific. And before we start, just want to tell you a little bit more about me. I actually started and spent most of my time in my career within the market research agency. I used to work for Cantor before I transferred to Johnson and Johnson, where I now head the network of agencies within R&D. And basically, on top of providing the insights, I also look at new capabilities that I can bring into my organization and utilize it, and that includes data science. And that's how this experiment of ours started a year ago as well. On my personal side, I hang out with life coaches, and it's part of me trying to develop myself, and as well as trying to hone my craft in understanding people. And a lot of that comes to what I do on a daily basis as well. So this afternoon, I just want to take you through how it all started. What are the gaps? What was the research problem we were trying to solve? What were the considerations that we have, including do we even have to use social listening instead of doing a data analytics? And how we were able to co-create the solutions that we have with our agency. Excuse me. And hopefully I can spend more time with you guys as well to on my three reasons on why I think you guys should also try it for yourself. And hopefully you see the value of doing this within your organization, regardless if you are on the client side or if you're an agency pitching to your clients. Okay, so our story really starts with ORSL, our brand. It's a legacy brand in India, and doctors historically has been prescribing our brand for dehydration. So it's a rehydration solution. That's why it's ORSL. It is most useful during diarrhea, wherein if you get sick of it, you actually lose the most fluid out of most cases. But as you can imagine, dehydration actually happens when you get sick, regardless of what is the cause. It's just a question on the varying degrees of it. And that's why we thought of expanding our portfolio. And the dream really is that for every indication or every kind of sickness that needs the rehydration as part of the treatment, ORSL will be there for you. And because of that dream, that goal that we have for our brand, we decided to explore the benefit of adding probiotics and prebiotics to our drink. Okay. And in this session, we're going to take you through how we were able to find a gap on the probiotic space. But the context of that one is that we started off with introducing a prebiotic, but we never really thought it did that well in the market. And the main problem that we see is that we don't know how to communicate the benefits of it. So there's a lot of questions that I will take you through in this presentations on where we think we failed and how um, this research is kind of like filling in the gap of the information that we require to get there. Okay. But before we go into that one, I just want to call out the white elephant in the room. Because when this started, my team also asked me, can you just do a social listening study? Because it's very simple. You can just try to figure out what people are already talking about probiotics in the market. But it comes with a lot of problems if we do that. on a very straightforward manner. And I'll take you through it. The first thing is that um, we are marketing to doctors. And now doctors are very particular, and it's their job to be particular. We need to know what is the right language, and we also need to present them evidence on effectivity, and we need to present it in a logical manner. And that's where I was questioning the value of social media listening at that point. Okay, is it the right database for us to look at in terms of trying to gather data? And we might get data out of it, but is it valid in the first place? The second part is really on the patient. Bear in mind that we are operating in an Indian market, and their diet consists of yogurt, at least on a big part of it, not on all the regions. But I would say, you know, if it's already part of their daily diet, do will they see the need, the benefit of adding probiotics in their treatment, for example? And then if that's the case, right, how will we be able to communicate to them such that they see it and they understand the science behind it, which leads me to the last point, which is, does the science stack up? Are what people believing on the outside world lining up with the scientific principle behind how probiotic and prebiotic works? So as you can imagine, there's a lot of considerations that we have before we even dive into looking at the benefits of probiotic. And just to illustrate that, right, even when trying to define prebiotic versus a probiotic, the medical community had to come up with a paper, and they look at all of the existing literature, all of the existing strains and effectiveness measure to even come up with a definition about it. But very quickly, prebiotic is basically the food for the bacteria, and probiotic is basically the bacteria that you ingest and hopefully survive there and flourish and kind of like help maintain that good ecosystem in your intestine. So if you condense all of these problem, right, I would say I would come up with one question, saying what would be the language that doctors and patients can agree to highlight the benefits of probiotic. Okay, and with that, I, just like any good client, right? I went to my I went to my agency uh, without actually a brief, and I was like, I don't even know how to write it. But fortunately, this guy, his name is Subdendu, brainstorm with me on how we can approach this. And the good thing about him is he's actually a programmer, and he can look at the ins and outs, and he didn't give me a canned solution to this one. And I'm quite impressed because the solution apparently was very simple, and I would say quite elegant in terms of how we can tackle this problem. And what he suggested is that, there are actually forums where patients would ask a medical community about a certain problem. And if they're lucky, somebody there can answer their problem and provide advice in a safe way. And there are moderators that checks the background of these people, and there are like a community that kind of like cross checks the fact as well and saying now, oh, I don't believe that opinion, blah blah blah, all of that. So all of that data comes under one forum, and what he's saying is that if we try to mine this forum, we might be able to answer your question both from the perspective of what the doctors are saying versus what the patients are complaining from. And there started what we call our data science approach. Now, I would say data and science here will be two separate process. So we're trying to also craft what it means for us as as an R&D organization in terms of how do we call this, what does the model look like. So in our world, the model starts with what we call it the data analytics, which is just purely looking at the data, what's out there, how do we take it, what are the relevance of what we take into our database, because the old adage is garbage in, garbage out. So this is the input to our model. And if you look at it, it's basically a very simple data scraping. For those of you who are programmers who are listening to this, it's a very straightforward data scraping. I guess what makes this data scraping different is that the forum was very targeted. We didn't go out to the big data of the internet. It's quite specialized, and we look at really the associated keywords, and refined it, reiterated, and interrogated the data several times over before we come up with what would be a clean database we can work off. And for those of you who are familiar with Tableau, this is how we visualize the data. If you're not familiar, it's basically just a big pie chart, but in boxes. And the size represents the gravity of the cluster. So it's a combination of the number of comments that are made there that are relevant to probiotics. So in the case of the biggest box, probiotic apparently was mentioned with traveling and stomach pain, and the combination of that database had around 15,000 views. So that makes it the most important chunk that we need to look at and dive into. And the next step really is when we started looking at the actual comments that people made, and we tried to convert that into possible concept. Okay, so in this case, we saw that some treatment actually upset the stomach of the patient, and they were trying to use probiotic to help them with that. But at the moment, we treated it as a suspect. We call it a suspicion. It could work. It is possibly scientifically valid. But the third step is we really must scrutinize it first. We really need to look at what are the other evidence that contradict or supports this idea. And that's where we went back to the drafting board, and actually I work with researchers, scientists, product development teams within my group to kind of like wrap our head around all of these comments. And it's not just one box. We actually look at all of the comments and try to see if we can actually convert and validate the science behind it. Is it making sense? So how does that look like? Let me just illustrate to you guys. So for example, in this comment, we are saying that there is a treatment combination of Tamiflu, which is it's a good drug to help shorten the period of flu, um, and antibiotics that the doctor has recommended. And what the patient suspected is that, her stomach lining got, we call it destroyed, but it got irritated, or it must have taken a part of it that, makes it more sensitive, and therefore it causes abdominal pain. And the hope is that maybe probiotic supplements can help with this situation. So we needed to really break it down, and we really tried to understand the the different causes of the whole process. So we started asking questions like, does the Tamiflu really cause gut damage, or is it the antibiotics? And can probiotic really help to restore the stomach lining? So what we did was really to look at all the scientific literature available there to kind of like prove or disprove some of these hypotheses. So the first one is on Tamiflu, and then I had my researcher look at the different scientific journals for about a week to just understand what is really the action of Tamiflu. And based on our research, actually Tamiflu does not cause stomach lining degradation. It doesn't have that side effect. You know, so that's why we were thinking, okay, maybe it's not really the cause, and therefore we shouldn't really communicate that probiotics can help you with the side effect of Tamiflu, for example. On the other hand, what we saw was that apparently antibiotic can actually cause um, gut damage. Okay, because when some of the antibiotics kill some of the bacteria, it kind of like disrupts the balance on your abdominal flora or ecosystem, and that is the one that really causes the abdominal pain. And therefore we identify this as the main need for our treatment. And then we look at, are probiotics really helpful in this case? And the answer is yes. Basically it repopulates your stomach lining, and it does restore the balance, or at least help restore the balance. The only problem is that not all strains are effective for it, and we need to figure out the right dosage for it, because it doesn't change the fact that when you ingest probiotic, some of them get skilled in your stomach due to the hydrochloric acid. And of course, there's a lot of process that goes into your digestion that might um, reduce the level of probiotic that are alive that will end up in your intestine. Okay? And that's how we drafted our concept. you know Basically what we're saying is that, to the doctor, if you are prescribing an antibiotic, you might want to think about adding a probiotic supplement to that one, to prevent the side effect of having abdominal pain that is caused by the temporary imbalance in the gut of the patient. And you know a possible solution for that one would be if we can develop an ORSL that has live probiotic that would actually survive and repopulate the stomach lining. Okay, and that is just one of the examples we have. And we actually managed to find four more possible solutions using the same method. So we just keep reiterating the same process, and we are starting to look at, can probiotics help boost vitamin B12 in the stomach of the person as well. And B12 apparently is also one of the deficient vitamins in India. So there's a fit there. And also, there's another problem for irritable bowel syndrome, which also upsets the stomach flora. Okay. And like I mentioned before, high survival rate for probiotic is actually a concern. Okay. So there you have it. That's how we come up with new products using data science. It's a very simple process. But I just like to take some time to actually highlight what this process looks like from our side, and how it has been helpful to some degree as well. And I found like three major benefits about it. And the first one would be, it really focuses our search for scientific literature. If you have done scientific literature search before, you would know that it sometimes take months or even years to actually condense everything. But if you already have a suspicion, you can focus your search to a certain direction, and that will make you review less materials. So it makes the process of searching much, much more efficient and faster for us. It took us like a few days to about a week to actually complete all of the search that we need to do. The second part is that it reverses the process. So we start from a proposition that's already out there that people resonate with, and that increases our confidence that we will actually come up with a winning proposition, instead of coming from the scientific and trying to convert that to consumer language, which is the other way around. Okay. And all in all, what I would say, and this is a comment coming from our medical team, they were saying that, wow, you just saved me a lot of time, because otherwise I will be reading all of the scientific research and trying to come up with a concept. But instead, you have directed me already to something that really works. Now I just have to support that idea. And therefore, I spend less time trying to come up with um, support for this concept, which normally takes years, months to years for them as well. So there you have it. Actually, that's my quick presentation on how this works. I'm having more time for you guys to have any more questions, and I'm gonna pause this recording, and I'll see you back on the main channel.